It's an overcast morning on April 20th, 2020, and a good day to visit my garden. We'll start outside of the garden along the fence that faces my driveway. This is where I've relegated the hot-colored roses. On the left is a tree rose that I bought at Home Depot years ago. Has no name, has no fragrance, so the identity that some people have offered doesn't seem to be correct, but it's bloomed gloriously for many years. Next to it is a red rose known as Catherine Earl, which is not available in commerce. I got it from Jerry Jennings. And then the recognizable, fabulous Joseph's Coat, which I think is blooming as well as it ever has this year. There's Mexican lobelia at the base, a bright orange Watsonia blooming to the right. I'm going to go closer to Catherine Earl just so that you can get a good view of what it looks like. It is repeat blooming, has some of the color and look of Dr. Huey, but without the mildew and without the long canes. This plant's vigorous but not overwhelming. Back up again, actually I'll just turn and look towards Joseph's Coat and the garden gate. The whole notion of my garden was to have archways. I love climbing roses more than any kind of rose in the world, and I wanted arches to greet us. And I have a little heart-shaped "Welcome to my garden" plaque on the right. So many of the plants and things in my garden remind me of people. My beloved best friend, Gail Stillwell, gave me the heart. And she's long gone, but she still has a place in my garden and in my memories. Have a little opening in the very basic gate that I have here, and that's wrought iron roses. We'll now walk up and open the gate so you can see what lies behind. If you are a Facebook friend of mine, you've seen this view again and again and again. And you see it in my photos and in the talks that I give. The first arch that you see here, we're actually standing under one, and I'll look back and we can look at it. But the first arch is Phyllis Bide in her first flush. She's too big for that space, but by golly, she's wonderful there. I love how it hangs on to its flowers and fades and gives us just some decoration for a very long time. Other people would find that annoying, but I like the pale, faded flowers all the way through. To the left is Barbara's pasture rose. Again, if you think of memories of people, Barbara Oliva will always be with me in everything that I do, including growing this wonderful rose. On the wall, the red rose is Guarda Rosamanus, or Ragged Robin. It's a wonderful rose to espalier, to use as a modest climber. Lady Hillingdon, that plant may or may not be a climbing version. It may be a semi-climbing one, but it loves being trained around that tripod, which is something I learned to do and like to do with my roses. And then there's roses to the right, most of which are minis and not growing much at all. I'm now going to step in, then swing around behind me, past Barbara's pasture rose. That's my office behind, and so this is the view that I have. The notion of this garden was, entrance garden is fragrance, to have herbs and fragrant flowers and fragrant plants. I'm going to walk closer and we can see Admirable, which is truly admirable. It is a Sean McCann rose, a fragrant mini, beautiful thing. Rose d'Amour is just starting. It's a rather alarmingly vigorous double, close to species type rose, a double Rosa Virginiana. Behind is a very traditional old-fashioned plant that I put some in the cemetery. It's an acanthus. It's one of the few plants that is still within my yard that was here when I came. To the left is a just beginning Chapeau de Napoleon, which may be my favorite rose of all because I just love everything about it, really. The fragrance and the way that it blooms, unfurls for a long period. And there's an unknown climbing rose up over this arbor. It does repeat, it's not fragrant. It was left over from open garden sale, and I've never been able to identify what it was. Nobody would buy it, so I bought it and planted it. I'm going to swing around again, show you a couple of the minis. This is Sunshine, which burling I budded onto a little tree rose. This rose can easily disappear if it's not budded and not grown high enough, but there it is, doing okay. The one that I had previously died when Walt fell backwards onto it, and he was very upset. I was more worried about the rose than about him, but he's okay. The rose died, but I got a replacement. And behind it is Sweet Little Artist, one of the painted roses of Sam McCready. I'm going to just peer across the vegetable garden, and you can see the archway back there with Crepuscule and Zephyrine Druhine and the Mutabilis. On the left on this arbor is a very mannerly climber. I bought it as Narrow Waters. I don't know that it is. It could just be a blush noisette, but it's nice. Barbara insisted that I plant Comtesse de Kyla, and it's large and it's more orange than I wanted, but it certainly is nice to have all these peachy colored flowers here. Phyllis Bide, got oh golly, one of my favorites too, Pearl d'Or. I had to get the name back. You see Crepuscule over the top, and behind is Grus on Aachen, so all these peachy colored roses. Over here I've got some red and white. I have what's sold as Francis Dupree, that some say is Barcelona. Ladies in Australia say it's not that, so who knows, but what it is fragrant, fabulous, not real strong, unbudded, and it will fade and burn pretty quickly, but when it's good, it's very, very good. And it's very sweet having the dianthus beneath it. And Madame R.D. starting up. I'll be posting pictures of it later, along with the wonderful Siberian iris that's just starting to bloom. That blue and white is just terrific. Speaking of roses that have been forced on people, this is a Toile de Lyon, and Janelle Michel bought the mother plant of it from Vintage Gardens at a celebration of old roses. Actually won a raffle and then gave me this huge rose and said, here, it's yours. Okay, so now I've got it, and it is wonderful. She said I could plant it instead of Clotilde Super because it is a nasty, bawling, unappreciative thing much of the time of the year, but it is great later on in the summer and fall, and it's very hard for me to remove a rose. Behind it is, oh, I'm going to draw another name blank. I need to start labeling roses, or at least getting ready for it. Mademoiselle Blanche Lafitte, there she is. And behind, the only modern hybrid tea I have, Mr. Lincoln. So we'll sweep around, we'll look at Grus on Aachen, get a view. Actually, we need to walk in and look at a few of these roses. To the back behind the vegetable cages, Catherine Mackenzie gave me the Burgundian rose. You can see it there, the little centifolia. I have behind that grandmother's hat, as well as a few other roses. We'll do those roses on another video. We'll swing around, look at another rose that was left over from an open garden. I don't know what it is, but it's a fabulous pale pink tea rose. Actually, somebody brought it back saying, you sold this to us as gourmet popcorn, and it's not, so you can have it back. Well, I'd rather have this rose than gourmet popcorn any day. Another mistake here. There are mistakenly planted things here, or roses that didn't turn out to be what I expected. is this rose. I think this is George Washington Richardson, and meant to plant it in the cemetery because I got my tags mixed up. So the cemetery got a yellow hybrid tea from Ione, California, and what I got was this wonderful rose. It's probably Sambrui. It's going to fill this spot beautifully. We've propagated from this to put in the cemetery. This is Duchess de Brabant, one of the earliest blooming. Archduke Charles, fabulous as always, somewhat covered up by the sweet peas, but I love sweet peas and roses together. And the sweet peas only last for a while, so I'm going to wait and uncover the sweet peas and give the statue a chance to breathe. But right now she's enjoying being fairly well clothed by the sweet peas and flowers. I'm going to do the rest of these roses also on another video. My battery's running low, and this has been a long video, so I'm just going to do a sweep. The arches continue with the cypress arch that my husband's beautifully pruned. I have a garden helper on occasion who beautifully pruned Secret Garden musk climber on the trellis there. We'll take a closer look later. You can see Paul Néron in the front, white pearl and red dragon's mouth. Beautiful perennial plantings. This garden in front of this bay window was totally dug up and replanted 2 years ago, so it's still filling back in. I'm going to sweep back around so you get the notion of the arches again and just the garden. I do have a side yard, a little back area. I'll film some other things. Some people think from my postings on Facebook that I have a big garden, but this shows you that I don't. I'm just a master of cramming things in.